All customer payment settings are found under the checkout settings, which are found under Settings and Checkout. Here you configure what type of payments you accept and also how customer accounts are handled, how orders are processed, your terms, conditions, and policies, and the checkout language. Let's take a look at the settings first. So I'm going to scroll past Accept Payments here and get down to the rest of the settings. To start off, you have Customer Accounts. By default, accounts are disabled, meaning when people make a purchase, they are only making a purchase as a guest. That also means they can never log in again and then see all of their purchases. They can only log in to look at individual purchases. So if you think that you're going to have guests that are going to come back a lot and may want to see their purchases again, or if you think you may have guests that will shop and then leave without actually buying anything and then returning, you may want to change this setting. Now you have two other options. Accounts are required or accounts are optional. Now these are a bit confusing because accounts are required actually means that you have to set up an account for them with a username and a password, and only then can they purchase something. If you want anyone to be able to purchase something from your site, but you also want them to set up an account, you have to check the last option, accounts are optional. This will give the purchaser the option of setting up an account when they are in the checkout process. Scrolling down, you have order processing. Off the top, it says, while the customer is checking out, use the billing address as the shipping address by default. This is a really good idea to leave on so that in case people have a different shipping address, they have to fill it in. But for most people, they won't have a separate shipping address, so they won't have to fill in two forms. Next, you have collecting consent to send promotional emails to customers from your store. By default, this is set to customer agrees to receive promotional emails by default, meaning when they purchase something from your store, they are also giving you the permission to send them materials. Personally, I'm not sure I like that because it means that you're kind of tricking them into signing up for an email system. So I would probably check the next option. Customer does not agree to receive promotional email by default. That way, they have to actively say, yes, I want these things. But that's just me. Most people probably want to leave the first one checked. So you just have to think about how you want to do this and then set it the right way. This is just a checkbox, so they still have a choice. It's just a question of whether or not it's checked by default or not. You can also choose to hide the field completely by checking the last option. After an order has been placed, you can do two things with the payment. You can automatically authorize the customer's credit card, or you can automatically authorize and charge the customer's credit card. This is the default setting, meaning when people purchase something, it automatically goes through the process of getting the money. If you select the other option, you'll have to actively go in and say, hey, I want to collect this money. In certain cases, that may be necessary, but for almost every site I can think of, you want to leave the second option, authorize and charge, checked. Scrolling down, after an order has been paid, you automatically fulfill all the order's line items. This option only makes sense if you are selling either a service or if you're selling some sort of downloadable good. If you're selling a physical product and you get the system to automatically check a line item as fulfilled, you won't actually know what you need to ship out. So if you're selling any kind of physical product, leave this unchecked and only check it if you know that that is the right option. Same thing for the next option. After an order has been fulfilled and paid, automatically archive the order. If you leave this option checked, then you will never see the order. It'll just disappear into the system and you have to actively go look for it. So in most cases, you want to leave this unchecked. At the bottom here, you have a really interesting one. The last of these options is a particularly interesting one. Here you can add additional content and scripts to the thank you page of the checkout. And this is a great place to put custom analytics. So if you have a Google Analytics account, like I said earlier in the course, create a separate tracking code just for the thank you page, and then put that tracking code in this field. That way, only when people get to the thank you page, meaning they have already made the purchase, will they be tracked, and you can actually track how many people land on the site and then go through the process and actually make a purchase, and you get very valuable analytics from it. Of course, you don't have to use Google Analytics. You can use any other analytics system. Just make sure that you have the ROI or conversion tracking code in this field. Scrolling further down, you have fields for inputting the refund, privacy, and terms of service statements. These are blank by default, And if it were up to me, I would say get these messages custom written by a lawyer so you're sure that you are covered for everything. But if you trust the auto-generated content, you can simply click on Generate Sample Refund Policy, Generate Sample Privacy Policy, and Generate Sample Terms of Service, and read through them to make sure that these are in fact good representations of how you're going to run your store, and if so, you're free to use them. At the very bottom, you can also change the checkout language or even add a new translation to your checkout language. So if your site is in a different language, you may not want to use English as your checkout language, in which case you can change it. When you made all the changes and you're happy with them, click Save Changes, and all your changes have been saved. The settings on the checkout page provide you with a high level of customizability. Make sure you create a refund policy, a privacy policy, and provide terms of service, or at the very least use the sample policies provided so you cover both yourself and your customers in case of issues down the road.